Hi everyone, and a warm welcome once again to the Justice for Aaron Brady campaign. As we continue to bring you the truth and the real story in relation to the investigation and the prosecution of our son Aaron, we're going to continue our focus on the area known as the burn site, the area where a blue Passat was burned out sometime after the mugging robbery at Lordship Credit Union. So we have covered a certain amount of it, and the false narrative that was portrayed by Lockenstein, Garda Scam and Detective Mark Phillips in respect of putting forward a prosecution. And I'm going to have a look at the overall area where the burn site was and look at the complete absurdity of the story put forward by the authorities. So we just look here, most of you who are following the campaign will have seen this map before. Number one is Cartamnet School, where there was CCTV footage taken from. Number two there on the map is a sighting by a local farmer of one vehicle, a loud BMW with blue lights, which obviously is not suspect A's. Number three is the burn site, and that number four to the east of the map there is an actual sighting of another vehicle which we say identically is identified as same as the farmer at number two, a loud BMW. So we believe that the sighting at point number two there, the local farmer, that vehicle came from the east of the map, which obviously means it cannot be suspect A's vehicle. But we're going to look now at the entry point, and you can see there I have the arrow on it. The vehicle allegedly came past number one Cartamnet School, which we have shown on numerous occasions is a complete and utter farce. Lockenstein showed two vehicles at 22:04 and 22:06, so 4 minutes past 10 and 6 minutes past 10 on the evening of Friday the 25th of January. And in collusion with Garda Scam and the expert from the UK, they tried to portray a story that this was a Passat and a BMW, which was totally, well, you definitely, from the footage that was shown, there is no way in the world you could definitely identify any sort of vehicle. Plus, on top of that, the Passat that allegedly passed the school at number one had no number plate light. And we've seen very clearly from the armed raiders leaving the site at Lordship Credit Union, very, very clearly, there was a number plate light on the Passat. So we have an entry point. The vehicle goes up past the entry point at number one, allegedly drives past number two and goes to the burn site. And obviously this all took place, if there was any credence to the story portrayed by Mr. Stein, that the car was on fire at sometime around 10 o'clock, according to the farmer at number two. But again, the times are all over the place because the vehicles passed at 22:04 and 22:06, so they wouldn't have been at the burn site until, we'd say, after 10 past 10. So the times are all wrong there anyway. And then we revisit our last video where Lockenstein interviewed or examined a witness who's seen vehicles at point number one at 10:30, half an hour or 20 minutes after the same vehicle was allegedly on fire. So the whole thing is a farce from start to finish. But what we want to highlight here really is the fact that there is absolutely no exit from the scene of the burn site. Now if we look, obviously we've shown you the entry point, and you can see here the gang, if it was Aaron Brady and suspect A, which we know now it's not, but if it was, they would have had to come back via Cartamnet School, and we would have seen CCTV footage of a vehicle going from right to left. It was never shown. And to highlight that, Mr. Stein or Mr. Garda Scam never actually showed us the vehicles at 10:30. That was the witness said he's seen at 10:30 heading towards the burn site. And they would have been interesting because one of those vehicles was actually on fire. 20 minutes earlier. So I think it would have been quite easy to identify if it was in roaring flames going past Cortamlet School. So that is the farcical nature of the story created by the prosecution in relation to the burn site. So, as I say again, for the times when Aaron arrived back at his then girlfriend's house and the phones active in and around the Crossmaglen area of the, I think it's the Drumlandrick site, they would have had to go past Cortamlet School. But lo and behold, there is no exit. This whole thing is a complete and utter joke. This is the most extensive investigation in the history of the Irish state, and there's cars disappearing and appearing all over the place, which makes absolutely no logical sense. There is no correlation or correlated time or correlated movement of any vehicles or any persons in relation to this prosecution. So it's a very simple part of the overall picture, and it's these smaller details, and it's so simple, and I would have to say so silly, that when vehicles allegedly went past Cortamlet School, burned the car and the vehicle didn't come back. The vehicle obviously didn't go by Cady, it didn't go by Newtown Hamilton, it would have been physically impossible. It is physically impossible anyway for Aaron and suspect A to have been back in Crossmaglen and at Aaron's girlfriend's house at the times portrayed during the course of the storyboard anyway. So there we have it, folks. There is no exit to this story created by Lochenstain and Garda Scam. And they must obviously know that. It's very simple. If a vehicle drives past a point, commits a crime or an action, it must return that way. And there is no other explanation. It would have to come back past Cortamlet School if the rest of the storyboard was to hold any sort of credence. But we do now know that suspect A's car was in Crossmaglen Square at the time of the murder and robbery anyway. So a very simple one this evening. It shows, I think we've shown before, that the whole burn site story is an absolute, I keep repeating, a farce, a complete and utter joke. It is a tissue of lies. There is no way on this earth that Garrett Kenna or Junior Prosecution Counsel Lochenstain believes one word of what they are putting up in court. And what they put up in court to secure a false conviction against our son. So we'll continue to highlight these points, and I know the general public now are getting a better grip of the whole story, and hopefully these little points will cement to you, the public, that this is a false and curated and a manufactured prosecution. So once again, thank you all so much for watching. We've had a couple of questions and comments that we'll deal with, I think, in the next video. And we thank you all most sincerely for that interaction. Please, we are being very heavily edited and censored on all our platforms. I think the last video that went out, some of the numbers were stuck at 128. Like, we have more friends and relatives watching it than 128. But we really need the like, comment and shares to be hit. Hit those subscribe buttons to help us with our algorithms. I will repeat once again, if we were saying anything that was wrong or incorrect, there would be no need to silence us. The authorities that be would be publicising any lies or inaccuracies, and we would be absolutely lambasted by the mainstream media. And again, mentioning those people, there's another very simple piece of evidence that could be, if any of the investigative journalists could pick up on. That makes absolutely no sense. But are the investigative journalists, are there any of those left on our island? I don't believe there is, because they're handed on a plate to them. All they have to do is drive to the burn site. We seen Barry Cummins at the burn site. It would have been very simple for him to have figured out that the whole story is an absolute farce and a total makey-uppy story. Once again, I'm going to keep asking you, please like, comment and share, hit those buttons, and we'll see you again in our next video. Thank you.